Hi, Mayor Greg Zilka and City Administrator John Rademacher here for another Flyerside Chat. John, a lot going on in the city again, as always.
Yep.
Anything special you'd like to talk about today? How about we start with a little bit on LGA. You had a conference call you took for me yesterday. I really appreciate it. You want to touch on what was discussed?
Yep. The legislative session for the state's going to be starting up in March, and we had a conference call yesterday for the board of the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities that Greg sits on, but he was unable to attend, so I sat in on the call. There's been a lot of good press from our cities supporting the local government aid that we receive from the state through the tax bill. Because the tax bill wasn't passed last year, they're going to bring it up for discussion again this year. But there's a little bit of kind of risk out there or worry out there from some of the legislatures that aren't as supportive of local government aid as our Greater Minnesota legislators are, and they're coming up with some ploys to maybe cut into the funding for that program. And so we just want to say, if you have any contact with your local state and elected representative or senator, tell them that your city utilizes 50% of its general fund revenue toward an LGA, and that's a huge need for us to have. So, if you're talking to them about something else, some other projects that are interest to you, and you happen to say, hey, our city also utilizes LGA a lot. So make sure you remind them that that we're really supportive of their support towards LGA and to keep that funding going for us, because we utilize it in a lot of good ways.
It's extremely important to our cities. We'd have a tough time operating without it. And today there's another Morrison County area mayor's meeting in Royalton, which John will be attending. And we had some interesting conversation at the last meeting about that. And the small communities that surround us are extremely supportive of it also.
Yes. So they need it as much as we do too. So.
Okay. One thing that was in the news recently, of course, is snow removal.
Oh, yeah.
John, would you talk a little bit about what city policy is? Because I know everybody would like it to disappear as soon as it hits the ground, but that last snowfall we had pretty much lasted from 6, 7 in the morning till about 6 in the evening. So would you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, and that kind of snowfall hit at the worst time for us. We'd love to get out there early in the morning. If it falls overnight, we're going to be out there first thing in the morning before anybody's heading to work, and getting the snow removed from as much of the streets as possible. Because then we don't have to worry about traffic. We don't have to worry about as many cars parked on the street. It helps us get the snow removed as soon as possible. But as every inch of snow accumulates on the street, the cost of that removal goes up. And our public works director put together a pretty good estimate that when we got that 4 inches of snow, it costs us about $7,000 just in that day of work and contracting and hauling to get that snow removed. So every time there's a 4-inch event, it's going to be $7,000. And we try to budget every year for. Can't predict the weather, so we can't anticipate the snow removal. But in 2014, a high snow year, we had $170,000 spent on just removing snow. Fortunately, the averages tend to work out in our favor, and we in 2015 came back down, and we only spent $80,000 in snow removal. So, that leaves us at right around where our budgeted amount is for 2016 at about $132,000. So, it just can't be that we can go out there and move every time a snowflake hits the street. We have to prioritize the roads that we're plowing first in terms of the safety that they need. The emergency routes are obviously a huge factor, and then it's going to gradually move to the lower volume streets. So, I'd recommend just being patient. We're going to get to it. We do our best with the limited resources that we have. I think our crews do a phenomenal job, and they're very dedicated to doing it. They're staying overnight in the building to get up at 2 in the morning to get things ready to get out there on the streets and remove the snow. So when things happen in the middle of the day, like that last major event that we had, it's more difficult for us to get out there and move around the other traffic that's happening. The state and the counties, they have whole departments that's the only thing that they're doing for the whole course of the winter, so they're just waiting for the snow to fall. For us, our crews are busy doing many other things, and then when the snow hits, they have to drop everything and move to removing snow. So, you know, it's something that we're always aware of. We appreciate the calls when they do come in, if they're, you know, reminding us of some areas that haven't been addressed yet. We would just say that, you know, remind you to exercise some patience, and that we are going to, you know, address those issues as they come, doing our best to get the higher priority areas first. So.
And since it's taxpayers' dollars, we try to minimize overtime, and like you said, we try to, the best way to maintain that budget and under and save the dollars and save taxpayer dollars is by being diligent with the times that we spend doing it. And like you said, we don't have 40 guys to drive trucks and do plowing, and we don't have the equipment. So I know when I spoke with Greg, he said, you know, they do the main emergency routes, and so you're probably not going to get your alley done for a day or two because they prioritize. So,
and then when we have to remove the snow, like in the downtown areas, that takes even more time and is more expense to it as well, because we're contracting for those haulers to take the snow away for us. So.
Right, I know there's been times when people have called and said, how come the downtown isn't cleaned out? Well, this last time, the way it went, there's no way they could remove it that evening because we were still had the plowing to get done, and then so that had to start the next night. And like you said, we have to work with other people to contract that out. So thanks, John. I know that's really important to a lot of the residents. Speaking of streets and infrastructure, we've got the council approved some projects for this next year. Do you want to talk about a little bit about what we're going to be doing this next year?
Yeah, so we had two public hearings for major street work. This is water and sewer infrastructure underneath the street, as well as a street repair. So we'll be doing four blocks this summer. Two of them are going to be on the east side, which will be on, I believe it's
3rd Street.
3rd Street,
Northeast.
So, that's a continuation of a project from previous year, so that'll finish off the rest of that street from where it ended all the way up into the railroad tracks just south of City Hall. That one is going to be more expensive than a typical street project might otherwise be, because we're also putting in a raw water line, so that if we were to do future well developments on the land that we acquired south of the fire hall, we'd have that available for us. So that's gonna be very good to get that finished, so we can move forward with that. It's really important for us in our wellhead protection plans to have an alternative water resource available for us pretty readily in case something were to happen with the wells that we do utilize around the City Hall property and the water treatment plant. The other is going to be on the west side on 4th Street. There's another 2-block stretch. There were some private water mains that were installed that we've been seeing having some continued problems year after year. There's been a consistent break in one of the areas. So we're going to be coming in and removing the street and putting in new water and sewer lines in that area, and then filling out the street with curb and gutter. So. And
that's around the area of the Our Lady of Lourdes or Mary of Lourdes schools, and that's actually comes out to 27, where there'll be some state work, I believe, on 27.
So that we'll be ready, so that when the state does have in its plans in 2018 to do work on Highway 27, we'll be ready for that, just to make those connections at those times. So.
And just so the public understands, you know, I was when I first came into this position, or first on the city council, the amount of money that it actually takes to do those projects. I think we have 4 blocks, and it comes in at over $1 million.
Yeah, we're close to $1.2 million with those 4 block of projects. And we had 2 other projects that we did the planning research for. But ultimately, we want to stay around $1 million of debt service for street work every year, because it's a good balance in the annual payments that we're going to make, so that we're continuing to drive down the debt that we currently have, but not adding to it with new debt. So, we take these things very seriously, and there's a lot of planning that goes into figuring out where those infrastructure projects are going to take place. We want to hit the higher priority areas when we can, but understandably, as costs go up, when we want to make sure that we're doing our financial diligence in these projects, that we're balancing out what we can afford to do and what needs to be done.
Which I think we're doing a great job of, John, and of course the council has the same thought process on that. Is we want to continue to lower our debt load But there's infrastructure that needs taking
Yeah.
care of, because otherwise you end up having breakdowns, and
Exactly.
you can't tear up this and patch it and tear it up and patch it. It becomes more of a cost.
Exactly. If you're not addressing some of these issues before they become really, really problematic, it's just going to drive up the cost of those repairs in the long run. So, we're doing it, trying to do it in the most cost-effective means as well.
Right. Golf course, I know you've had a couple of meetings, and it's not as easy talking about golf after you get 6-8 inches of snow, but there's a lot of planning goes into that.
Yep.
We have a new golf course manager,
Exactly.
and you've had a couple of meetings. You want to give us all an update, John, on where that's going?
Yeah, Rich Fry is our new golf course manager. He's started with us in December, but we've been doing some planning stages and getting things ready for the season, and one of them that we wanted to get taken care of right away was getting the positions, seasonal positions, updated and ready so that we could advertise for those positions. And I'm happy to say at the last council meeting, the council approved those job descriptions and approved posting those online, so are available. So people can come in and fill out an application. We do have a need for seasonal help out at the golf course, both as a cook, inside in the pro shop, bartending, out, and even out on the course. And one aspect that we did do was to give some of those lower duty jobs out on the course. They're available for kids that are 16 or older, as long as you have a valid driver's license. So that gives us an opportunity to get somebody in, a high school student in, and be able to employ them for the summer for some of the seasonal work, because we hope that they could stick around and work even throughout their entire college. I was actually one of those that did start working at a golf course when I was 16, and actually did it all throughout my college and undergrad as I got through school. So it was really, really nice for me to have that job every summer. So.
Well, I know there's a lot of excitement revolving around the golf course right now. Has there been any more discussion on a rebranding or renaming of it?
Yeah, and we're talking about that, and then some of the questions are coming up on the I guess the technical and legal sides of that, if we're changing the name, and some of those operational things too. So, we certainly want to remind everybody that the golf course is a municipal-owned golf course. It's open to the public. That we are doing our research right now into determining rate structures, whether or not our greens fees and cart rental fees is up all the way up through memberships. We're doing what we can to understand and keep those as reasonable as they possibly can, but also knowing that it costs money to operate, and that we don't want to be operating the golf course at a deficit. It should be able to financially sustain on its own, just like it did last summer. We did have a $5,000 net profit to the golf course after all of the expenses. So we want to keep that moving forward. So we're doing a hard look at what the rates are, and we should have those posting and going out in March, so that you'll know what the membership dues, what the greens fees are going to be for the summer. And we do hope to have some creative strategies, so that it isn't just somebody maybe didn't join or move to town in the middle of the summer. They might want a membership. We might be able to work with doing some sort of prorated means for that. But yeah, we're looking at everything. Rich is working hard to kind of figure all of that out, and there's a lot of things that have just developed and kind of evolved over the past, and we might just be going to more of a simple structure in how we work on those rates and memberships too. So
good. I know last year there was some discussion because we'd had a golf advisory board, and the council chose to disband that and appointed a liaison from the city council. And how do you think it's working out? I think it's working out well with that format.
Yeah, I do too. Leif Hansen is the liaison for that position. He's met with Rich even a couple times. They built a good at least connection and be able to communicate together, so that Leif can bring those council needs and recommendations from the council to Rich too. And then also with Rich, he's working with us, Greg Kimmett and myself and Lori, almost every day, that we're working together to kind of understand how the golf course fits in with everything in terms of city operations, the stuff that we can do to maybe save money in some areas, and the things that we do have to invest in to ensure that the golf course is operating to the most current standards that it can, and keep it moving well, and a viable asset for our community.
Good. It's exciting time out there, and I'm looking for bigger and better things.
Yeah, I can't wait for the snow to melt to get out there and play.
Well, you know, with the golf course we have along the Mississippi, that's rare to find in the first place, and we have a beautiful, challenging course. And so I think with some new management out there, I think we're going to have bigger and better things. Randy did a good job for us over the years, but it's always interesting when you have a change of leadership to see. They bring in new ideas because Rich was, as we've discussed in the past, had managed a course in Indiana, I believe it was.
And I think another priority of Rich's is trying to get some more youth involvement. So, you know, starting some more youth programs out there, working with the golf teams from the high school. And, you know, I know there's a boys team, but no girls team at this time. We'd love to see that, you know, reestablished in our community. And we certainly want to do what we can to support youth golf in our community as well. So.
Well, even Rich was very receptive, as were you, to let the cross-country skiing team go out there, the Nordic skiing, which was awesome because all they had is the soccer field across from my house, so everything was flat.
I was going to say, no hills. So,
no,
they've been great. They come out and they groom their trails and utilize that for meets and practice. Another big thing in partnership that we're doing with the school with the golf course is that in the fall, we actually host a major cross-country event for the high school. So, you know, and we're going to be doing that for the next couple of years even. So that's, you know, it's a great, another additional use of the golf course not in those prime seasons, so, you know, not related to golf, but it's a great asset that the community can have to support these other youth sporting events that are going on too, so.
Definitely. One thing that I would like to mention briefly, and John hasn't been around for one of these yet, I'm sure he'll participate this year, but the 6th annual Day of Caring will be coming up May 4th, and through my work I'm part of the committee, and also as mayor I'm part of the committee. But what it is the high school actually sends out all the students along with adult supervision, and last year there was over 1,037 volunteers, and they went to 171 homes, and that's between Little Falls and Randall because it is a school district project. Sure. And it's a pretty exciting time. They go around, rake leaves, and buzz some brush for the neighbors and really clean it up. And I know the neighbors greatly appreciate it. And Mr. Bjorgi, the high school principal, spoke to us today. We had our first committee meeting, and he was talking about how it's the lowest absentee day in the school because the kids love doing it because they go out and they're helping people, and it's such a great event. And then in the afternoon they have activities for the kids, and there's a nice lunch that local businesses are involved to a fantastic degree on making this thing happen. So we'll get you involved in that and let you see what that's about. It's really it's a really neat thing. Yeah. So,
well, as you and I know, both being former Key Club members, that was a big component in my high school in doing service for the community. So I love that the whole school is actually doing that and taking part. That's great.
Fantastic idea. Mr. Bjorgi brought that to us, and we've got so many, not only businesses, but Horizon Health and Live Better, Live Longer. So many groups that are involved in it. It's a fun and exciting time.
Great.
Well, I believe that's all we have for you today, so thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you again.